Stalingrad, a name that has become synonymous with the brutality of war, where two of the world's most powerful armies clashed in a battle that would define the fate of millions. The year was 1942, and the German Wehrmacht marched into the Soviet Union, seeking total domination. But in Stalingrad, they would meet fierce resistance and find themselves ensnared in a struggle for survival. This is the story of the Battle of Stalingrad, a turning point in World War II and one of the bloodiest confrontations in human history. By the summer of 1942, the German army had advanced deep into Soviet territory. Their aim was to capture the vital oil fields of the Caucasus and to deal a decisive blow to Soviet morale by capturing the city named after Joseph Stalin himself, Stalingrad. For Hitler, this city was more than a strategic target. It was a symbol of prestige, a personal challenge to defeat the Soviet leader on his own turf. The German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, advanced confidently toward Stalingrad, expecting a swift victory. They were backed by artillery, Luftwaffe airstrikes, and tens of thousands of soldiers. As they approached the Volga, they believed that Soviet resistance would be shattered just as it had been in countless other towns and cities. But Stalingrad was no ordinary city. It was a vast industrial center and a symbol of Soviet resilience. Stalin's order was clear: not a step back. The Soviet people understood what was at stake. The city's fate would decide not only the war, but the very survival of their homeland. Workers, civilians, and soldiers alike took up arms to defend their city, a desperate struggle in which every street, building, and basement became a battleground. The Luftwaffe rained destruction upon Stalingrad. Wave after wave of bombers turned the once bustling city into a smouldering ruin. But amidst the rubble, the Soviet defenders dug in. The shattered streets created a maze where every corner became a killing zone. The Germans found themselves embroiled in a nightmarish urban conflict, where progress was measured not in miles, but in meters. Soviet snipers became symbols of defiance, picking off German officers and sowing fear among the invading troops. The infamous Rat War had begun, a savage, up-close conflict where neither side gave quarter. Soviet sharpshooters like Vasily Zaitsev became legends, and the spirit of the defenders became a rallying cry for those holding the line. By November, the situation had changed dramatically. The cold Russian winter set in, and the German troops, unprepared for the harsh conditions, began to suffer. Supplies dwindled, morale plummeted, and the once mighty Sixth Army found itself vulnerable. It was then that the Red Army launched Operation Uranus, a two-pronged attack aimed at the Romanian armies protecting the Sixth Army flanks. The German Sixth Army's flanks were overrun and the Sixth Army was encircled. Hitler was determined to hold the city at all costs and forbid the Sixth Army from trying a breakout. Instead, he opted for aerial resupply and to use external forces to break the encirclement. The Soviet operation was such a success that the German Sixth Army being encircled, and with the Soviets being able to stop the German Luftwaffe from being able to drop enough supplies from the air. The hope of escape settled in deep. General Paulus and his men were now surrounded in the ruins of the city they had fought so hard to conquer. The tables had turned, and the hunters had become the hunted. The siege of Stalingrad dragged on through the bitter winter. Starvation, frostbite, and constant Soviet attacks took a terrible toll on the trapped German forces. Hitler ordered Paulus to fight to the last man, refusing any possibility of surrender. A Soviet envoy party was sent to Paulus with terms of surrender that were fair considering the circumstances. Accordingly, Paulus did not respond. German high leadership also informed Paulus, Every day that the army holds out longer helps the whole front and draws away the Russian divisions from it. But by January 1943, it was clear that the situation was hopeless. The once proud German Sixth Army was reduced to a desperate, broken force. On January 31, 1943, General Paulus surrendered, and the remaining men of the Sixth and Fourth Armies surrendered on February 2, 1943. Nearly 91,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner, including dozens of high-ranking officers. The Battle of Stalingrad had ended in a decisive Soviet victory. Of the tens of thousands who went into captivity, only a fraction would ever return to Germany. The cost of the battle was immense, nearly 2 million military and civilian casualties on both sides. The city itself was left in ruins, a stark reminder of the devastation of total war. The victory at Stalingrad marked a turning point in World War II. It was a triumph of resilience, sacrifice, and determination. For the Soviets, it was a symbol of their unbreakable spirit, proof that they could and would push back against the seemingly unstoppable Nazi war machine. For the Germans, it was the beginning of a long retreat, the moment when the tide of war turned irreversibly against them. Today, the city once known as Stalingrad is called Volgograd. The scars of the battle are still visible, and the memory of those who fought and died here endures. The Battle of Stalingrad was not just a clash of armies, it was a clash of wills, a testament to the human capacity to endure even the most unimaginable hardships. It was a battle that shaped the course of history and left a legacy that the world must never forget. I would recommend checking out a movie called Enemy at the Gates, which is a screenplay of a book written in 1973 by writer William Craig called Enemy at the Gates: The Battle for Stalingrad. In the movie, the main character is a fictionalized version of Vasily Zaitsev, who is considered the hero of the Soviet Union.